Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be looking at a set called Rural Kids Service Set from 2017 DILR CAT. So we'll be looking at 2017 slot 1 sets, and this slot is considered to be one of the difficult slots for DILRs. So these are good practice problems for you to understand what exactly is a CAT level of DILR. So before going ahead, this set is rated to easy to medium in terms of difficulty level and will give you a 10-minute solution. And please try to solve this set once all by yourself before looking at the solution. Let's begin. So this is the set and these are the different questions in the set. You can pause the video and try this set once and then look at the solution. A study to look at the early teaming habits of rural kids was carried out in a number of villages spanning 3 states chosen from Northeast, West and South. 54-year-old kids each were sampled from each of the 150 villages from Northeast, 200 villages from the West and 200 villages from the South. So now we know that the total number of students in Northeast, West and South who are surveyed. It was found that the 30,000 surveyed, out of 30,000 surveyed, 55 studied in primary schools run by government, 37 in private schools, while the remaining 8% did not go to school. So now we also know that out of the 30,000 surveyed, how many went to government school, how many to private, and how many did not go to school at all. Let's move ahead. The kids surveyed were further divided into two groups based on whether their mothers dropped out of school before completing primary education or not. The table below gives the number of kids in different types of schools for mothers who dropped out of school before completing primary education. So there is one table given of the details of the kids whose mothers dropped out of the school before their primary education was here. So similarly, there will be two other tables, two other sets, kids whose mothers did not drop out of primary education and the total, the complete set. So now that we know the details of the complete set from the previous paragraph, we will start forming table for the complete set of kids. So we'll fill what all details we know. We know the total number of kids in the Northeast, West, South, and we also know the total of G, P and O. Let's move to each of these points, extra points. In S, 60% of the surveyed kids were from G. So if you see S 10,000, 60 of them were from G. That means 6,000 are from G. Moreover, in S, all surveyed kids whose mothers had completed primary education were in school. This means that those people who did not complete, who were not going to school in from S, are all of them are from this set, the set where the kids whose mothers dropped before primary education. So this means that we know G and O of S. So once we know G and O, we can fill P as well. So let us fill that. Let's move to the point number 2. In Northeast, among the O kids, so Northeast O kids, 50% had mothers who had dropped out before completing primary education. This means that this 300 which is there is 50% of that number which is in the complete set of kids. So this means that the number of Northeast and O in complete set of kids is 600. Right? Now let's move to the next and last point. The number of kids in G in Northeast was the same as the number of kids in G in West. Right? So we know that these two are same. These are X and X, say. So we know that X plus 6,000 is equal to 16,500. From that we can find these two numbers. Now, once we find these, the remaining numbers can be filled because we know the horizontal sums as well as the vertical sums. So let us fill those. Now we have the complete table for complete set of kids as well as the kids whose mothers dropped out of primary education. We can very easily fill this table where there are kids whose mothers did not drop out of primary education, but we will not fill it. We'll fill only when it is required because it will waste a lot of time, at least 1 or 2 minutes. So what percentage of kids from S were studying in P? So out of S 10,000, how many were studying in P? 3,700. So the answer is 37%. Let's move to question 2. Among the kids in W whose mothers had completed primary education, so we are looking at table 3, which we did not fill. How many were not in school, right? So here we are looking at this data point. So that will be equal to the difference of O of W from the complete set of kids and O of W from the kids whose mothers dropped out. So that is equal to 300, right? So now let's move to the next questions. So in the next two questions, they gave additional data which changes this distribution little. Let us see what this additional data is. In a follow-up survey of the same kids 2 years later, it was found that all the kids were now in school. This means that this 2,400 students who were not going to school before were either going to a government school or a private school, but they are going to school. So this sum will be 0. Next, of the kids who were not in the school earlier in one region, 25% were in G now, whereas the rest were enrolled in P. So they did not tell which region. They are referring the regions as region 1, region 2 and region 3. So we'll form a small table, region 1, region 2, region 3, G, P and O. And O will obviously be 0. So here in case 1, we have G as 25. So the rest 75 are enrolled in P. In the second region, all such kids were in G now. This means 100% were in G and 0 in P. While in the third region, 50% of such kids had joined now G, while the rest joined P. So 50% and 50% in the third case. As a result, in all the three regions put together, 50% of the kids who were earlier out of the school had joined G. This means that out of this 2,400 students who are out of the school in total, 50% of them had joined G. That means that 1,200 in total is the number of students who joined G. It was also seen that no surveyed kid had changed schools. Now one thing you can observe here very clearly is that there is this 2,400, half of this is 1,200. So 1,200 is the maximum number of the total number of kids in G once this distribution is done. Now, if you take R2, it has to be the case where 100% of the kids who are not going to school of that particular region have to come to government school. So R2 can definitely not be W because W itself is 1,500 and the total we have for G is 1,200. So it's not possible that W is R2. So W must be one of R1 or R3. And R2 must be one of NE or S. Right? Let us now look at third question. What number of the surveyed kids now were in G in W? So we have seen just now that W can either be R1 or R3. So in case of R1, 25% of the students would be going to G. In case of R3, 50% of O previously would be going to G. So in both of the cases, it is not 0 definitely. So 5250 is the current previous state of students. So that can definitely not be the answer. So it should definitely be greater than 5250. Now there are two possibilities, 25 and 50. Let us look at both the possibilities. So 25% of 1500 is 375. 50% of 1500 is 750. So in both the cases, we get two different answers. One is 5625 and one is 6000. And only 6000 of these is there in the options. So from this, we know that 6000 is the answer. And we also know that R3 is nothing but W. Let's move to question 4. Let us now look at question 4. What percentage of the surveyed kids in S whose mothers had dropped out before completing primary education were in G now? So now we know that in the question also it was given that S and O, the number of students who were dropped out, so far as S is concerned, all of them were from that group where the mothers have dropped out before PE. So all the entire of this 300 is here. So we know now that W belongs to R3. If we do some permutation combination, we can definitely find what is R1 and R2, right? Which is R1 and R2. And we can know the distribution of O, 300. So cannot be determined is definitely not the answer. It can be determined. Now with given that it can be determined and given that R3 is W, S could either be R1 or R2. There are only two possibilities. Let us take the case when S is R1. So in that case, 25% would be going to government school. That is 25% of 300 is 75. In case of R2, 100% would be going. In that case, it is 300. So in case of the first case, it will be 5100 plus 75 by 5700 because they are asking the percentage of the surveyed kids in S whose mothers had dropped out in school and are going to government school now. So that is 5100 plus 75 by 5700. In the second case, it is 5100 plus 300 by 5700. So the answer would be either one of 92.1 or 94.7. Again, in the options, luckily only one is available. So this is the answer, 94.7. So it is always possible to solve the entire table, but compared to this method, that will take a lot of time. So when in question, anyways, you have this information of 4 options in case of MCQ questions, you must use them to your greatest benefit. In the upcoming videos, we'll be looking at more sets from DILR 2017 slot 1 of CAT paper. Thank you.